If you're a lawyer, you're familiar with imposter syndrome, and it's something that I work on regularly with my lawyer clients. Today, I'm going to share some evidence-based strategies for helping you to make peace with yours. And stay tuned to learn how imposter syndrome affects your job search and why it's so important to address it before. Welcome back. And if you're new to this channel, I'm Annie Little. I'm an ICF certified coach and a former lawyer. And I started this channel for lawyers who are looking for practical guidance on how to land, lead, and succeed in the legal profession and beyond. All right, so let's talk imposter syndrome. For starters, everybody has it. Everyone. And it never goes away. So let's talk about some scientifically proven ways to manage your imposter syndrome. All right, so the first strategy we're going to talk about is how you can present counter evidence. And you're a lawyer, so this should feel somewhat familiar and natural, right? And what this means is that you're just presenting evidence to your brain, to your imposter syndrome, to counter the narrative that you are an imposter or a fraud. And this is one of the many reasons why I encourage my clients to create a master resume that has all of their career experience on it, because it is such a great source of counter evidence. I'd like to think of it as your own personal evidence vault. Another great source of counter evidence is what I call client love letters. And this can apply, it doesn't have to just be from clients. It can be from clients, colleagues, supervisors, really anyone who has said something to you that counters that evidence of you being an imposter, a fraud, not good at what you do. So here's what I recommend. Pin down those emails, texts, whatever they are, print them out, compile them, and create a little love letter file that you can reference when you're having one of those moments. And this type of counter evidence tends to be particularly effective because it's coming from an external source. So it really is worth the extra time and effort to compile it. All right, strategy number 2 is to remind yourself that imposter syndrome is simply a sign of your success. Remember, I said everybody has imposter syndrome, all lawyers have imposter syndrome, and all successful people, if they're being honest, will tell you that they experience imposter syndrome. And that's especially true for people who are high achievers, right? High achievers, success tend to go together. So check out this list of famous people who I think by anyone's standards would objectively be considered successful. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, Tom Hanks, Michelle Obama, Maya Angelou, John Steinbeck, Tina Fey, Ryan Reynolds, and Mindy Kaling. I wish there were more lawyer examples in my list, but I think that's really reflective of how there's still some lingering stigma and shame around having imposter syndrome in the legal industry. But I want you to know it's totally normal and there's nothing to be ashamed of. And just, watching this video, you're going to have so many tools to use to help you manage your imposter syndrome. All right, third strategy. We're going to talk about growth mindset. So a growth mindset is just one that believes that you can improve your personal qualities, something like intellect, for example, by learning and through practice. So one of my favorite strategies for imposter syndrome and growth mindset is so simple, and it's all about using the word yet. So if you're ever in a situation where you hear yourself talking or you're thinking this, that you're like, oh, I'm just not good at this. Like a great example is networking. Lawyers will often say, I'm just not good at networking yet. I'll say, hey, let's add yet to the end of that statement, because if it's something that you want to do and you want to improve on, and let's be clear, anyone can improve on that stuff. So to say you're not good at networking, it really does yourself a disservice, and your brain really absorbs that message. But by adding just those 3 letters, yet, that puts you into a growth mindset and disarms your imposter syndrome along the way. Another element of growth mindset is reframing mistakes as feedback. So instead of thinking of them as something that you've done wrong and that you should forget and get past as soon as possible, consider them feedbacks. Mistakes provide you with new data for you to observe and analyze. And I really love that strategy. It makes sense to me intuitively because mistakes are inevitable. Like, right, we don't want to make mistakes, and as lawyers, it's important to do our best to not make mistakes. However, they are going to happen. And so you don't want your imposter syndrome to latch onto those. And a great way of doing that is by reminding yourself that, listen, I'm human, I make mistakes, and when I make a mistake, it's really just evidence that I'm trying and that I'm working towards something that's worthwhile. All right, so you've made it to the end where you've been waiting to hear, okay, so how does imposter syndrome factor into the job search? And this is why it's so important for you to start playing around with some of the strategies that I mentioned earlier. Employers will have a hard time believing that you're the best lawyer for the job if you're struggling to believe that yourself. And listen, that's probably not going to be the reason that they will articulate for not advancing you through the interview process or not extending you an offer. It's something that manifests more as them being like, there's something off about them. And so it looks like a lack of confidence coming from you. Again, they might not say lack of confidence, but if you don't actually believe that you're the best person for the job, it's really hard for other people to believe that same thing. And like I said, I work with my lawyer clients on imposter syndrome constantly. And if you're curious about what that might look like, I've popped a link in the description so you can take a sneak peek at my coaching program called Make Your Next Move. And so you can check out not only how we talk about imposter syndrome, but just all the things that I work on with my clients to help them find and land their ideal job.